Hi, I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 75. We're going to talk today about what's the difference between pull chest and high larynx. Hi, everybody. Great to see you here today. And I think we should have a really interesting conversation here about the differences between pull chest and high larynx and why it's important for us to know that. So I just want to make sure that everyone's able to see and hear me, which I can tell you right now, you can't see me. You can hear me. Hi, everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 75. We're in the pre-show show, so we'll start in just about 3 minutes. We'll be starting at the top of the hour, and we'll jump into this. Now, when I first publicized this today and indicated I was going to be going live, uh, I made an error on the time. So the time it said 2:30, which I don't know how that translates to worldwide. But when I came back in and edited the title, Power to Sing Live, number 75, I recognized that I had gotten the time wrong. So, hey, Joe, nice to see you today. So Joe got the message that it was at 2 o'clock. I made a mistake, Joe. I had scheduled it today. By accident, it said 2:30. I didn't realize it for a while. So, hey, yeah, how about this beard? Thanks, Via. I'm in a show right now, and I'm playing the role. Well, I'm in rehearsal. The show is Camelot, and I'm playing the role of King Pellinore, the old king who ends up being a friend and advisor, and basically the only person who's really telling Arthur straight, very honestly, what needs to be done in the kingdom. So, and he's kind of the comic relief as well. So I haven't shaved or trimmed this thing at all, and it remains to be seen if I will. It might be going on for another month and a half. We'll see. I don't know. So welcome you guys. Hi George, nice to see you. And the bridge, Altu, nice to have you here. Um, so let me see here. I've just got to cut off the edge of my comment section there so I can see everything. Okay. So Joe says you're on here in Wisconsin. Great. Okay. So you guys, do you have any idea what I'm my vocal type is pole chest high larynx, and I thought of a saying by Tevye in the play and in the movie Fiddler on the Roof, and he was talking about being poor. And of course, it's no disgrace to be poor, but it's no great honor either. So it's no disgrace. It's no disgrace to be pole chest high larynx. On the other hand, I don't know that it's any great honor either, because it does tend to get in the way of our singing. So do you know the difference between pole chest, high larynx? That's the question really that we're going to be talking about, pole chest versus high larynx, and what's the difference and why does it matter? So hi, I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 75. Today we're going to be talking about what is the difference between pole chest versus high larynx. And I want to welcome everyone here today, and we're going to jump right into this. Just say hi to a few folks who have joined us. We had a couple here for a few minutes right in our pre-show show. Bright Tone, hello, nice to have you with us today. And so, what is the difference between pole chest, high larynx? I was saying in the pre-show show, Tevye, in Fiddler on the Roof says something about no, it's really no disgrace being poor, but then it's no great honor either. Probably 90% of those who take the vocal test at powertosing.com, they get on and take the power test, which it's a vocal test, but I call it the power test because of the name of the website, Power to Sing. About 90%, well, maybe 85%, are pole chest, high larynx. And so it's very, very common. It's my vocal type. And but we lump two different things together. We lump pulled chest together with high larynx. And so I thought it might be an interesting idea today to talk about the differences between the two. We call it a vocal type, or in other words, what we tend to do, what I tend to do when I go through the bridge of my voice. Now I've learned to get through the bridge, and I've learned to mix. So I've learned to bridge, and it's made a huge difference in my singing. Oh my gosh. For those of you who may not be familiar, I mean, I couldn't sing past this E above middle C. That was the top of my voice. And so to find out that there was actually something beyond that that I could actually use to sing notes with, well, I didn't believe it at first. I mean, I thought, well, I wasn't born that way. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that today and kind of dive into that. Let me say hi to prominent Steve Paragon. Steve, hi, nice to have you with us today. And Steph, did you get by me without saying hi? Let me just scroll back down there. Oh, and Marian Lopez Florido. Nice to have you here, Marian. And so Johnny Hanson, Johnny, nice to have you here. Yeah, it's great to see you. I know you haven't had a chance to join us frequently, but Mark, nice to have you here today. Zaya and Ink King, hey, Ink. So lots of questions already starting here, Majesty Joshua. So I am going to address today the topic, full chest, high larynx, and what's the difference? And if we have time, then I'll come back and we'll cover some of these questions. If we have some questions related to the topic, let's get to those first. And then those who are not on topic, maybe I'll have time to cover some of those today. So, okay. Well, have you ever heard anybody talk like this? Have you ever met anybody that kind of had a kind of a talk like this? Maybe it was a little bit squeezed, and when they talked, it was just a little bit, I don't know, kind of up here. I know some people who talk like that, and I'm not making fun of them, but they just talk up here. More ladies than men. I don't, but some men I've heard that are kind of up here, and I'm not really even talking about the tessitura of the voice as much as I am kind of this little bit of a, I don't know, it's a little bit of a squeeze. And I have to say, I heard, I did a history of my father some time ago, and I interviewed him. He's now deceased. He passed away aged 94 last August. But I have myself on tape interviewing my dad, and I was surprised by the sound of my voice. My larynx was up. And so when I was asking him some questions, I say, Dad, what? And it's very different for me now. And it's happened over a period of years, and it's happened as a result of vocal exercises that I've been doing. Now I'm dealing with some reflux right now. It's actually a little bit better today, but it's an interesting thing. Have you ever heard anybody kind of talk that way? Let me just check here and see if anybody's made any comments along that line. Glad you knew I pronounced my last name. Good. Well, thanks, Mark. I took a stab at it. Sometimes I get it right, and most of the time I don't. So, okay. So I just made a couple notes here because I kind of want to be thorough on this. Let's talk about pulled chest first. Anybody know the difference between pulled chest, high larynx? You want to take a guess at it? What's the difference between pulled chest and high larynx? Let me see. Ink King says, I think high larynx is okay if you can, and my my comment section is off the side of the screen there. So let me just fix this so that I can read the comments. Why is this so long today? It's, whoop. Okay, well, there we go. Now I've got a whole screen and I can't see my image, but I think I'm on screen. So Ink says, I think it's okay if you can control it, but if the larynx causes you strain, then it's bad. The larynx naturally rises and goes down itself. It's all about control. Okay, that's an interesting thought. Any other comments? High larynx is a brighter tone. I would say that's probably true. I'm not sure exactly how you would describe or define bright tone, a bright tone. But I think I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean, Mark. Mark said, I've taught myself to speak higher, and I noticed I sing better. Okay. Oh, hi, Asmat. I haven't said hi to you. I want to say, I want to love my voice doing your exercises. Okay. Yeah, so Mark says a higher tone is a high larynx is a brighter tone. Okay, so Mark says a pulled chest is a fuller sound and is strained. Hey, Apadios. Nice to have you here today. Yeah, I think there is some association with the high larynx and a nasal tone. No question about that. So, okay, so let's kind of start from the beginning here. So let me just first give an example of pulled chest. It's not hard for me because that's something I did all my life. And it's not that I meant to, but just the only way I could go higher was this. I wouldn't go that high. That's the F, because it would start to fall under pitch, and I was always afraid it would crack. I didn't think it sounded good. I knew it was off pitch, and so I would stop at the E. And I didn't want to break into falsetto. So that's kind of the example. But let's talk physically what's happening. Physically, the vocal cords are remaining, and that's probably scientifically maybe even might be inaccurate, because as the pitch ascends, the cords do stretch. But there is a weight about the chord structure. There's a weight that you can feel, and when we're doing that, you can feel the tension. You can just feel that there's some heaviness, some thickness, and it's twofold. I think the chord structure is not adjusting appropriately. So there has to be the introduction of another ligament, and I believe that's the cricothyroid ligament, and I'm not an expert on that, but I know it has to come into play in order for me to go into my head voice. And so suffice it to say that the chord structure isn't adjusting appropriately. There has to be an elimination of some of the heaviness, some of the thickness, some of the feeling of the weight of the voice in order for it to get through the bridge and get into head voice. So that's pulled chest. Another aspect of pulled chest is the vibration remains at the hard palate and below. So it kind of hits up here. So you can, well, I'm being very bad today. I'm pulling my chest up to almost to the G, but you can feel the vibration is not releasing. It's hard and heavy, and it hits the hard palate, and it sounds nice and powerful to us, but my goodness sakes, the vocal cords are under duress, and the vibration is is splatting by now. It's going wide and the vowel is spreading and so forth. That's all, those are all elements of pulled chest. And so it gets the vibration gets kind of locked in down below the hard palate and doesn't really ever go beyond that. Now, the thing is, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was supposed to. I didn't know the feeling at all. But that's just all I knew until I was 43. Now that's over 21 years ago, 22 years ago. So it does not shift or transition into head voice. It just doesn't. The closest thing that could happen, it might break. And now it definitely feels different. So I can feel some vibration or resonance into my head, but if I break now the tone is now the tone feels disconnected because I can't reconnect down in the chest. Until I have to kind of break back into it. So I have to reconnect coming off of pulled chest and into falsetto. Now, the larynx. What about the position of the larynx with the pulled chest? If you put your hand here, there's my Adam's apple right there. And I said, I'm going to do this two ways. I'm going to do it. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do it this way. You tell me what I'm doing. Yeah, you couldn't really see that. Well, that's one way of pulling chest. In that condition, you don't see that very often. I don't know if I've ever seen it. But the larynx is pretty well down. Now I'm actually driving it down with that dopey sound, and that's not an easy thing to do. But that's not necessarily high larynx. It may be manipulated larynx. So, it's not good, but it's not necessarily high larynx. We certainly know there's a lot of tension there, right? So that's another thing that there's tension, there's squeeze, there's pressure with the pulled chest. But it's not necessarily that the larynx is coming up, but more frequently than not, most of the time. And the larynx goes up as I pull my chest higher. So anyway, in this situation, I could demonstrate pulled chest, but the larynx is pretty much staying down, or at least I'm keeping it down. However, all these other factors are coming into play. The resonance or the vibration's not shifting up into the head. The vocal cords aren't making any kind of an adjustment. They're just feels like they're getting thicker and heavier as you go higher. And the vowels are spreading and splatting. The sound is splatting. And there's a lot of duress, a lot of squeeze, a lot of grab, and the voice itself doesn't feel very good. A lot of us sing that way. Maybe not as extreme as I'm demonstrating, but anyway, so I got a couple comments here. Let me see if I can get a comment that's related to our conversation. Okay, so let me back up here, and so let me just address this question here. Steph says, "Hi Chuck, I hope you're well." Thank you, Steph. I am, except I've got this little scratch that's persisting on my voice. It's a little better today, believe it or not. I feel like I'm doing mixed, but my high note seems strained. I hope I'm doing my mixed right because the rest of my notes are perfect. Steph, here's the situation. I've found that if the high notes become strained, there's probably the larynx is going up and there's probably some pull. So you might be getting through there without disconnecting. You might be getting up with your head voice, but something is happening where there's still some reach, there's still some grab. That's not necessarily unusual. When we first learn to start mixing, it's somewhat imperfect. And so don't be discouraged by that, but just keep working on refining and improving it. Eventually, and here's the thing, even in the first bridge, even if you feel like you're getting through there pretty well, you may be, and I've seen this, particularly with gifted singers, you might be getting through there kind of pulling chest. And then when you hit the second bridge, it catches you. And for the men, that's like this, the men's second bridge is the women's first bridge. The men, the tenors, particularly the high tenors, they get caught at about the B flat, B flat, 4. And all of a sudden, then they've got to unload that weight or keep squeezing, and then they start, really yelling. So a lot of times as a gifted tenor, and I think that the female voice does the same thing. If you pull through the first bridge because you're really good, and you start hitting that second bridge, you start feeling like, oh my gosh, it feels strained. I'm gonna recommend that you go back and revisit the first bridge, because that's where the problem is. If everything is done very well there, then the second bridge, you should be fine. I hope that's helpful and not too bad of news. It's hard to tell sometimes if you're like a really gifted singer, and you can get through that first bridge pretty easy. So maybe pulled chest is raising the larynx. The bridge asks or comments that pulled chest, alto, I completely agree. Most of the time they are a combination of both things. I'm going to show you in a minute what a high larynx sounds like that maybe is not necessarily pulled chest. But it's very common that both are happening at the same time. And the pulling of the chest voice just facilitates the larynx coming up. Mark again says, let me revisit that. Mark, what's wrong with having a higher larynx in contemporary music? The Weeknd tends to sing with a higher larynx, and he sounds amazing. We have definitely accepted the sounds that are given to us. There's a popular university here in my state that trains singers to belt, and the particular belt they teach is a high larynx belt, and so they send a lot of those people out into the world of singing, and when people hear it, it sounds pretty impressive at first, but after a while you begin to realize that there's a great deal of the voice that's missing. And maybe we should talk more about that when we talk about high larynx. But there's some resonance that's just not present anywhere in the voice. And some of the control is missing. I've heard one of my cast members some years ago singing a romantic song, and he was singing 3 inches away from his other lead, and he was singing almost full blast because he didn't have like a mid volume range. He could sing loud and he could sing it very soft, and so he lacked some control there. And I don't think the belt enabled him to control it very well. It was either soft or it was loud, but there wasn't a mid range of control of volume. Anyway, we kind of start listening to music. We hear singers and what they give us, and we get used to it. And so we say, well, that is good, because we've not heard much else. And so it has kind of something to do with our tastes, not necessarily that it's really good singing. And that's because it's what's served up to us. I mean, there's some people that I really like listening to, and they're not really that great of singers, but I still like them. But as far as really good singing is concerned, I'm not certain that I'm ready to call it good. Anyway, okay. Oh, Johnny had to leave. All right, Johnny, maybe you can catch this later on. Um, Joshua said, "Oh, sir, thanks for the free PDF on the pull chest high larynx exercises. It really changed my voice in a small period of time." Great, Majesty. Yeah, so I'm going to put it also in the bottom of this this video. In the description, there'll be a link to pull chest high larynx to get your vocal types, what it is, and on that PDF that you can download it here, is links to pull chest high larynx, the links to flip falsetto, links to light chest, no chest, links to mix. They're all right there on the same PDF. It just kind of will save you some time, get you there quickly. So you can get right to the vocal test, take the test, and then you can get right to the links that have your not only what videos about what it is, exercises that you can use, but also I've provided links that you can download the exercises for your vocal type. That's in the PDF in the description below. Get your vocal type. So thanks for mentioning that, Majesty Joshua. Okay, let me see if I can get some more questions here, and then we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about high larynx. Okay, there's some conversations going on. I'm not going to try and jump into those. Excuse me. The high larynx, let me circle back to this comment. I think high larynx is okay if you can control it. You know, I don't know that anything is bad if we're choosing it. You can choose falsetto. If you choose high larynx, I guess I would wonder why. I have some ideas, and I think they're acceptable. But I think that the important thing is that you know enough about it. Maybe you don't need it. You know, you've got your technique well enough established, and the mix is strong and powerful and bright, or you know, whatever color the music and the words are bringing into your voice. But if we have to go to that because that's the only thing we can do, then I think you're limited. Okay. So let me see here. We got a couple other questions. Marion says, I have a problem with my larynx because when I'm nervous, it raises, and then my voice sounds strained. That makes me feel more nervous. Yes, I understand that, Marion. And nerves can create real havoc on our voices because the larynx goes up. And that happens too with if you get too emotional in your singing. Like for me, if I start crying and I'm singing, the larynx is like in my mouth almost. It just really goes up. So it's the nerves is a whole nother issue. And I would only say that we want to get our technique down solid so that we know, all things being equal, everything's going to be fine. Nerves, you can be nervous about your technique or worried about your voice, or you can be nervous about performing for a certain group or something like that. But it may be well to look at some of those videos that I've got on my website about confidence, because confidence is helpful. And I'll just say one thing about it. If you really lose yourself in the words, the lyrics, the meaning, the deep meaning of your song, then it's helpful. That will help you lose the jitters and the nervousness. You want to have it so well memorized, and you want to have the feeling vivid in your heart and mind about the meaning and feeling of the song. And that will help more than anything else. Probably the second most helpful thing after solid technique is losing yourself in the song itself. And then the confidence goes really high. I remember Seth Riggs one time saying, "It's not scary if it's easy." And that's what hopefully this will lead to, being easy. Inkings, I don't think High Larynx is bad because it didn't. Michael Jackson, didn't he sing with the High Larynx? The voice was extremely light and bright. That doesn't necessarily mean he was singing with the High Larynx. I would recommend everybody go online and search Michael Jackson, Seth Riggs, and listen to his exercises. There's about 15, 20 minutes of exercises there that Seth takes Michael through. And you realize that Michael could sing low, way down there, and he could sing way high. And he had pretty much of a balanced voice. Sanav Yasik, hey, nice to have you with us today. I'm on the train, hoping my internet can keep up. Cool. I've been told that I can mix, but my larynx goes up for sure, and sometimes I squeeze or too much or maybe crack. When I focus on proper technique, my voice instant edge and presence. So, yep, you know, it's a process. And when things are new, it's hard to be perfect. Even when things are really established, it's hard to be perfect all the time. And so just keep working going after it, keep practicing and so forth, and it's going to make a difference. And eventually you'll be able to do things without the squeeze, without cracking for sure. But you're on the right track, and that's the important thing. Let me pause now for a second and before I go on, let me just talk about high larynx. The bridge asks, what exercises other than nays thin the vocal cords? You know, Altu, any exercise that takes you through the bridge into your head voice is going to thin the cords, because the cords have to drop the weight in order to transition into head. So if I just said, if my cords didn't thin, I wouldn't be able to do that. And so just about every exercise we do that takes you on the 1.5 scale through the bridge up into your head voice is going to thin the chord structure. Now, for those of us who are just learning how to do this, 2 primary exercises are going to provide probably the fastest results. Either the bratty neigh, the neigh, 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 or the dopey gee, 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 or probably the dopey gee. I would say those 2 are going to provide the best results, the fastest and the quickest, to eliminate the weight of the chord structure, the weight of the voice, to get through the bridge and into head voice. Now, okay, so high larynx. We all know what that is, right? Put your hand right here and swallow. If you want something interesting, hum, and then swallow while you're humming. What happens? Well, as the larynx goes up, the epiglottis closes. As you swallow, the epiglottis closes over the vocal folds, vocal cords, so that whatever we're swallowing can pass down through the esophagus and not go into the trachea. and we start choking, which is one function, by the way, of the vocal cords that helps prevent aspirating fluid into or food into the lungs and blocking our air passage and us dying. So, but the larynx you can feel go up. And so when the larynx goes up, if it goes up much, you're going into swallowing mode. And so if I were just saying, it just cuts off everything as that thing goes up higher and higher. Osmium Studios. Lucas, how you doing? Great to have you here. So the high larynx is not necessarily accompanied by pulled chest. For example, if I were light chest, no chest, and I said, the larynx is going up, and it's starting to squeeze and pinch and pull. So sometimes we think that the larynx is only associated with pulled chest. There are plenty of, and this is an interesting thing. When I hear the vocal types, when I am doing the vocal test, and some people send them to me, some people take the test. The ones I listen to, sometimes they are light chest. But if the larynx is coming up enough so that so that they break, now I have a problem. What do I say? You're light chest, no chest? Or do I say you're full chest, high larynx? What do you think? Well, if they're into their voice enough that they can feel the bridge, and I can hear them struggling through the bridge because of the high larynx, then I'll tell them they're full chest, high larynx. And in reality, they need work on both. But if it's so light that they don't even feel the bridge, then I'll just indicate that they're light chest, no chest. Now, even if the larynx is up a little bit. So, that's high larynx. That's not necessarily, so there's a difference, and the position of the larynx going up, and it goes up too high. If it goes up, it's going to start squeezing and pinching and causing tension. And it's going to cause us to be reaching for the notes, and that's going to be a problem. We're not going to be able. We're going to have some squeeze. We're going to have some pitch problems, and so forth. Now, here's the other thing. Listen. Ma, 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 ma. If I said, you can hear the larynx is up. Now, neither one of those are necessarily finished tones, especially the high larynx tone. However, the lower larynx is going to enable me in my, well, it depends on the genre, but overall, there's going to be much more of my voice coming through if my larynx is down or resting where I speak, rather than up here. And so the exercises that we do, even though they're slightly like the bratty neigh, 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 even though the larynx is slightly up, the main purpose for the bratty neigh is to connect the tone through the bridge from chest to head. Once we're able to do that, then we discontinue it. And it's like maybe some of you have listened to Singing for the Stars, and Seth Riggs is talking about it. He says, "We don't talk like that. Why would we want to sing that way? So we want to get rid of the dopey sound, and we want to get rid of the high larynx exercises so that we can get just to our own voice." So the difference then between pulled chest and high larynx in this regard is that you can hear the overtone is different. There's more voice to the lower larynx. There's less tension for sure, and there's more overtones that are kicking in. And that's one of the complaints I have about every voice that is singing with a high larynx, is there's some of the body of the voice missing. And I don't think it's necessary. However, certain genres of music kind of are that way, and that's the way it is. And so we are trained that way. Some singers. I think it's possible to have the full body of the voice. I think it's possible to get to much more power and control with the larynx down than with a high larynx. And it doesn't have to be a wimpy sound. It doesn't have to be a high larynx sound. Now, yes, it depends on whether you're singing, rock or other kinds of music that pretty much takes that you're expected to have that sound. But so the genre does make a difference. But I generally leave that up to you. Although, if I can help you remove the abuse of the voice, this is the problem. And this is why this is a difficulty. Too many people rely on pulled chest or high larynx in a dysfunctional way. Maybe they're doing a high larynx with too much pulled chest. And so it's easy to start abusing. So I might use the high larynx exercises. Nay, 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 just to take the abuse out of the voice, so that someone, if they're going to be up there and needing to do some kind of pop rock thing, then they can do that, and they can do it healthily. And there's nothing wrong with it, unless that's the only thing you can do. If that's the only way you can sing, and you have no choice. But there's some music. I think there's a couple solos in Superstar where they're way up there, and a lot of some of the rock stuff. So that's the high E, and I'm not in great voice, but so I can do it with a high larynx. I could probably do it with the low larynx too, but it's not going to sound the same. Okay, so there's a limited space for resonance. Why? The larynx is coming up, the larynx is going up, but now the distance between the larynx and the mouth is shorter. Where if the larynx is down, there's a little more space in there for resonance to flourish, so to speak. Also, the words can be distorted, whether high or low larynx. And so I don't really feel like, so why do we combine the two of them? We combine the two because most of the exercises that we do will help both the pulled chest and the high larynx. And so we combine those two things together, and because frequently most often the two are combined, but not all the time. And the exercises that I give you that are available at powertosing.com, the exercises are available in the PDF in the description below. For every vocal type, there's a link to each of the vocal exercises. There's a link to all of the vocal types just to make it easier for you. So you can go there, get the links, and have the videos and the exercises in your fingertips in a moment. Okay, so thank you for all of your comments. I'm going to try and wrap this up, and so get you guys on your way. Let me just double check here and see if there's some questions that I can grab real quick and try and help if I can. Okay, so let me see here. Some of the, I mean, I don't want to break into some conversations if you guys have already been helping each other, which I appreciate. Asma says, I want to love my voice doing your exercises. I listen to music all the time and sing 2 to 3 songs per week. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So, yes, there is some, whenever I get a nasally tone quality from a student, I know pretty well that the larynx is up. It has the effect of, I don't know whether it has an effect of putting it up into the nose or closing the palate off and sending it up into the nasal cavity. But I found that by doing a lower larynx exercise, like the dopey gee or anything with a dopey sound, I can usually get rid of that nasal quality in the voice. Yasik said, sound of Yasik, Chuck, I'm on it. Okay, we talked about that already. He's on the train. Mark says, true, the song doesn't. Sorry. Chuck, with exercises of the names, we covered that. Okay. All right. My assistant is out of town today, or she would help me with some of these questions. How long does it take to be master for a beginner? You know, Omkar, I don't know if I said hi, by the way, hi. I was listening to a interview with Pavarotti, and Pavarotti, if you don't know, was one of the premier tenors of our day. He's passed away now, but the interview was with him, Joan Sutherland, and Marilyn Horne, and he gave an illustration of an F, and actually kind of demonstrates a high larynx F. You know, and it's really cool. I mean, it sounded really good. But then he said, oh, you know, he did this really awesome F. And he said, no, he said, the other one's okay, but it's not elegant. And then he showed the second one, and he said, now that take maybe he said it may sound easy. That take maybe 10 years. 10 years. Pavarotti. So it just depends on whether you want to be the master at the coffee shop, or whether you want to be the master at the Metropolitan Opera, or the master at you know, at the top of wherever you want to perform, Omkar. It can take years, decades, maybe all your life. So Ink says, Chuck, I can do all the lip rolls and nays up to E5 and full voice perfect without strain at all, and then I can to them perfectly in songs with no strain. But when I sing, I still can't go above the F4. Probably your vowels, Ink, are getting you in trouble. If the vowel spreads, then we end up pulling up the chest, and so It's an issue with the vowels in the words. That's the problem. If what you're saying about the exercises are true. And that's another day and another another thing to address. Jordan, hi. So my chest voice sounds very mature. When I go to head or falsetto, I sound like a little kid, super weak. You know the problem. Yes, Jordan. It's kind of like the tennis player who plays professional tennis. His right arm, if he's right-armed, if he's right-handed, his right arm is well developed and his left arm is skinny and thin. That's the problem. You've got something very well developed and the other is underdeveloped. So that's the problem. The solution is pull back on the chest voice and then build your bridge and build your head voice together with the chest so that they come up together with the proper technique. So how do you keep the lower, so Mark says, well, how do you keep the larynx lower when you sing the G4 through C5 notes? Same way. That's why if the first bridge is working well, if I said, that's to the G4. So if I said, nothing changes. That's what's so powerful about the bridge. Once we get that bridge process down, you just continue doing the same thing up the scale. So that was G6, G5, G5, yeah. So C5, C5? Oh, sorry. So C4, so C5, yeah, that was G6. Okay, so anyway, got to run. Thank you, everybody. I hope this is, let me just see. I think I got most of all the questions here. Thanks for the explanation of shorter space of resonance. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Mark, it does, doesn't it? It's just like physiological, it's true properties of sound and space and so forth. Chris says, my voice is in the bass range. Is there anything I can do in order to sing like a tenor without sounding strange? Yes, Chris, my voice is in the bass range also. So you've got to learn to bridge. So it's possible. Thanks, Joe. Have a great weekend. Possible to have a bass voice and have tenor notes. And that's what this is all about. Just to close today, I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. And I want to remind you, you can download down in the description below, there's a PDF. If you're new to the site, there's a PDF that takes you right to getting your vocal test, find out your vocal type. All the vocal types are listed with their links to their videos, to examples of exercises, and to the actual exercises you can download. It's going to save you a ton of time. Thanks for joining me today. All the best to you. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. Thanks. Bye-bye.